Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Eh bien, merci et bon après-midi.
Honored to join Vice President Pence in welcoming President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte to the State Department. Bienvenue. It's fitting that we meet here today in the Benjamin Franklin Room, where we've welcomed many French presidents and diplomats in the past, and for good reason. Benjamin Franklin was a central part of our two countries' diplomatic relationship. As the United States' first ambassador to France, appointed 240 years ago, he was instrumental in establishing with France our young republic's first treaty alliance. From the very beginning of our nation's history, the United States and France have shared deep and abiding friendship, built on our foundational commitment to the defense of liberty in our own countries and around the world. President Macron, your visit today offers an opportunity to deepen this historic relationship at a time when it has never been more important. Today, the United States and France are, together, addressing global security challenges and supporting the democratic aspirations of people across the globe, as well as taking a firm, unapologetic stand against regimes that use despicable means, like chemical weapons, against their own people. Creating a more secure and prosperous future for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, requires steadfast and willing partners. We are so grateful for President Macron. He is that partner and that leader. Fortunately, our countries also benefit from long-standing commercial and educational ties. Our economic relationship is robust and growing, with more than $1 billion in daily bilateral commercial transactions. And our education and cultural exchange programs serve as a foundation for fostering the deep people-to-people ties that bind the United States and France so closely. We are proud that the hallmark educational program between our two countries, the U.S.-France Fulbright, is one of the oldest and largest in Europe. The program just celebrated 70 years of engagement and has provided 20,000 American and French students with the opportunity to study, teach, or conduct research in each other's country. Of course, we know that our partnership is not just about the past, it's about the future. We look forward to working with President Macron to address the global challenges that lie ahead. With no further ado, please join me in a toast. To President Macron and to the people of France, may our alliance grow ever stronger and more dynamic over the next 240 years and beyond. À vous très santé.
Santé.
And now it's my great honor to introduce the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
I want to thank our acting Secretary, John Sullivan, for those stirring words and for his warm hospitality here today at the State Department. President Macron, Madame Macron, Ambassador McCourt, members of the Cabinet, members of Congress, distinguished leaders and guests from both sides of the Atlantic, you may feel free to be seated. It is a great honor for me, as Vice President, to host you at the State Department today, Mr. President, as we celebrate the enduring friendship between the United States and America and the French Republic. Karen and I are deeply humbled to join you and Madame Macron today with all of these distinguished guests. Mr. President, it's no accident that France is the very first nation to be welcomed to the United States for an official state visit under this administration. History attests France was America's first ally, and France was America's first friend. And as your visit demonstrates, under President Donald Trump, our cherished bond is only growing stronger. But, Mr. President, it's also not an accident that you, in particular, are the first leader to receive this high honor. As President Trump said earlier today, the two of you have a wonderful friendship that's evident for all the world to see today. And it is remarkable to think about the similarities that two of you share. Just like our president, you won an extraordinary victory. You upended the establishment. You're charting an inspiring new course for your nation. Just like our president, you're fighting tirelessly to restore prosperity for your people, enacting bold reforms by cutting regulations and cutting taxes, actions that even now are reviving the economy of France. And just as President Trump promised to make America great again, you promised to move France forward, en marche. And I know that everyone here will join me in applauding the historic progress that you and President Trump are making for both our peoples. Under President Trump's leadership,
Sous la direction du président Trump et la vôtre en France, nos nations vont se développer et seront toujours plus proches. Comme le président Trump l'a dit tout à l'heure dans le bureau ovale,
he couldn't imagine it had ever been closer. And your strong personal relationship is a reflection of the bond between our two people. But as we heard today on the South Lawn of the White House, the vibrant friendship between the President of France and the President of the United States.
président des États-Unis a ses racines dans l'histoire.
Indeed, this morning, you both reflected of a 19-year-old Frenchman who aided America during our revolution. And today, it's a joy for me to reflect on the story of the great friendship between the Marquis de Lafayette and General George Washington. As President Trump said this morning, the bond between the United States and France actually began 241 years ago this month when Lafayette set sail for America. Only weeks after he arrived, Lafayette met George Washington. Lafayette at age 19, General Washington at age 45. But there was forged a bond for the ages. Washington saw in Lafayette leadership qualities and the courage that would make a difference in the Continental Army, and the alliance was born. For the next 4 years, Lafayette served at General Washington's side. He survived the long winter at Valley Forge. He fought the enemy to a standstill at Monmouth. And he led one of the final charges in the siege of Yorktown that won our war of independence and secured our freedom. After the war concluded, Lafayette returned to France to advance the cause of liberty in your homeland. And as you mentioned, on the South Lawn today, last night at Mount Vernon, you saw firsthand the key to the Bastille that Lafayette would return to America and present to General Washington as a sign of his enduring admiration and the strong bond between our two people. Ultimately, those two great men shared a love of liberty. And to this day, freedom, liberty, is the cord that binds the United States and France together as allies and as friends. Though we're separated by an ocean, freedom unites our nations in common purpose. Though we speak different languages, freedom gives our people a common tongue. And though our two nations have charted our own distinct courses over all the years, freedom gives us a common future, a future that we are forging even today. The shared love of liberty is why France and the United States stand together with our NATO allies to ensure a Europe that is whole, free, and at peace. It's why our citizens and our soldiers have stood shoulder to shoulder together in the fight against the barbarians of ISIS and worked together to cut out the cancer of radical Islamic terrorism that threatens civilization itself. And it's why earlier this month, the United States and France, together with the United Kingdom, took decisive action to cripple the chemical weapons program of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. And President Macron, on behalf of President Trump and the American people, let me say once again, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the brave and capable men and women of the French Navy. La Royale did an extraordinary job. times like this in the life of both of our nations, it is heartening. It is heartening to stand with a friend who shares our most cherished values and a friend also who has the strength and the will to stand with our strong president to defend our way of life and our values. And we know that friend is France. I couldn't help but think as you and President Trump planted a tree on the lawn of the White House yesterday of the metaphor of a long and enduring relationship. And let me just say, in the words of the psalmist, may this relationship grow like a tree firmly planted by streams of water that produces its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither. So today, on behalf of our president, on behalf of the American people, I offer a toast to President Macron, to President Trump, to the good people of both of our nations. May our friendship grow even stronger, and may we never grow weary as we work together to forge a future of freedom and peace in our time. God bless you, Mr. President. God bless France, and God bless the United States of America. À votre santé.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not bad for me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Macron.
Monsieur le Vice-président,
Mr. Vice President, Madam Pence, Secretary of State, Madam Rodriguez, members of the American Congress and of the French Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. It is for Bridget and myself an immense honor, as well as for the whole of our delegation, to be together with you today in this temple of American diplomacy. A diplomacy which has for a long time been close to that of France. You both reminded us, Mr. Vice President and Secretary of State, reminded us of the deepness of our bonds, as illustrated by our contacts with President Trump since we arrived yesterday. We've always been there for one another. When it was about building a new free country, some young French men came to support it because they'd found about the values of the United States. When on both sides of the oceans it was about defending that freedom, you joined us on the occasion of the First as well as the Second World War, where you stood with us to defend our values and this joint destiny. And all along these centuries, your diplomacy, and I apologize to the military presence here, our defense is great because our diplomacy is great, and they strengthen each other. Your diplomacy has constantly been working with ours in order to build a coherent approach of the world. In this place, some major events for our modern peace have been prepared for or agreed upon. And this is in particular based on the friendship between our two countries, which has contributed to forging this Western world based on democracy, the freedom of individuals, and enable us to build the international order that we know. It is based upon a balance always fragile because it relies on the powers and counterpowers and what each and everyone does. But it is an indispensable balance for the world. An economic, financial, political order has been put together after the Second World War. Is it perfect? Probably not. Can it be improved? Definitely. Have we seen anything better? I do not think so. This order that we built, which your diplomacy contributed to, is the one which is in the name of our values, from the United Nations to the IMF and the World Trade Organization, and thanks to all of the international organizations we've put together, this order enables us to enjoy the framework for our cooperation and for defending our values. And this is what we're here to defend today. I will talk about it further tomorrow when I take the floor before the Congress. It is an honor for France, and I shall thank your country and President Trump for that. And I will say it once again. I believe in a modern multilateralism, a strong one, which knows how to be respected, how to build peace, and foster jobs as well. It's not about endless regulations. Neither is it about a new framework within which we would give up on the values, on everything we've taken so much time to build. So in this place, which is so important for the history of your country, as well as the history of our relationship, I'm well aware that I'm talking to leaders in a place where a lot of our future will be decided. I also would like to say a few words about our economic relations. Today are here with us many men and women who very much are in charge, thanks to their investments, of our economic bonds. And the United States of America, as a matter of fact, is the first foreign investor in France. And it is also the first country where French businesses invest. In total, it is $100 billion in goods and services that we exchange every year. It is therefore a relationship based upon the strength of our economic relation, because there is always something more than the economy between our two countries, because it is our vision of the world, our values, our joint ambition, from distribution to finance, the energy sector, the defense sector, research, education, scientific cooperation. We have this strong bond. Over the past few months, we implemented on both sides of the ocean some major reforms which have brought about some new momentum to these exchanges. Since 2017, the United States is once again the first source of foreign investments in France. And I'm very pleased about it, and I would like it to continue. And I'm very pleased that some of you have, over the past few weeks and even today, have announced some huge investments in France in the field of tourism or the media, intelligence, artificial intelligence, the financial sector, the pharmaceutical sector as well. And I would like us to continue to work to that end. Investments. Investing in a business, investing in human capital through education and training. This is absolutely indispensable for us to succeed. In France, we will continue to implement reforms and to transform the country in order to make it even more competitive, so that within the European Union, we can shoulder all of our responsibilities and support the necessary reforms in the coming months and continue in education, in culture, in research, and in the business sector, continue to be the leader that we are in order to continue to be this counterpart that we've been to the United States for a long time. Of course, it is about creating new jobs for our peoples, in particular our middle classes. It is about also facing up to the coming challenges, the energy transformation, as well as the digital transformation. Everything that will be required in terms of artificial intelligence, the changes that it will bring about, our ability to attract talents. And we will have to work to make sure that it is still possible because we know how to defend this peace that we cherish together. And be it about the international order or the economic order we believe in, we can only keep them if we constantly reinvent them by managing to convince on a daily basis our fellow citizens that this is the right thing for them. There can be no success detrimental to our peoples. And I know that we cannot succeed without protecting and continuing to cherish our values. This is against this background that we will face up to the challenges ahead of us, be they political or economic. But I'm aware that in this city, and together with you, Secretary of State, Mr. Vice President, and together with President Trump, we have reliable allies. We have one historical ally, which means that any disagreement we may have at some point in time will not overcome the strength of history, the weight of our duty, and the values that we've been sharing. So please allow me to raise my glass to this House, to your diplomacy, to all of our guests who are keeping alive the relationship, the economic relationship between our two countries. Raise my glass to your president, to your people, to the friendship between the United States of America and France. Santé. Cheers.